are. I always reflect, I guess, on the types of sources that you're finding and how you can use them and how you can make the most of your time. And so I wanted to kind of, I guess, show you an example. And this is something that I might do in class after, like on a day when we're talking about researching ProQuest. I might show a quick example of, how to find the sources that you're looking for. So I'm going to use any kind of like medical or surgery show or movie here. The one that always comes to mind, of course, is Grey's Anatomy, because that really is the show that kind of fueled this whole project. I don't think I've told you guys this, but one summer before I started assigning this project, I was watching Grey's Anatomy, and I thought, is that really true? Is this what it would be like? Why did I become a teacher? Why didn't I become a surgeon? Because that seems so much more glamorous and fascinating and high-paced and super interesting. Like, I think I could have been a good surgeon. And so I thought a lot about, is it like, do students base their career goals on some of the things that they see on television? And if so, is that fair? Can we base it on that? So anyway, because Grey's Anatomy is that go-to example, because that's what started it off, I'm going to use that here. So let's say I'm working through finding the sources on my annotated bibliography, and the first one that pops up is finding a source written by an expert. So how do you even go about doing something like that? I'm going to show you what I do, what I would do, and all of, I guess, the different ways in which I'm going to find something written by an expert. So what I Googled, this is the first thing I Googled, who are the most expert surgeons? If I typed in, I tried to replicate this because I originally did this on my work computer and forgot what I searched. But if I typed in something like expert surgeons, I don't get the same results as asking this question, who are the most expert surgeons? So this reinforces the concept of finding a synonym or another way to search your criteria if your terms are popping up with no relevant results is really something that's important. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to click on this one because I don't know, who knows, could be promising. 20 most innovative pediatric surgeons alive today. The first person who pops up is Scott P Bartlett. It says that he has his medical degree in plastic and reconstructive surgery. So I am going to just copy his name and open up a new tab and Google search him to see if this is legit, like where is he working. And it looks like he is working at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. So I want to find out a little bit more information about him. And here I see his background, and I can confirm his credentials through education and training, where he did his residencies, things like that. And now what I like the most about what I found is his publications, right? Because I can say it sounds like he's an expert. What has he published though? He has been very, very prolific. I mean, each one of these 2 to 3 line entries is a citation for his work. So I'm going to see if I can just find something that he's written. Now, I could go about highlighting the titles, for example, of his articles and then typing those article titles into Google and seeing what I come up with. But oftentimes if you do it in this route, you might only be able to find the abstract or the summary of the article. like for example, this tells me this is a 7-page article, but of course all I see here is just an overview. Full text links, I could try to click on this, but depending on what I have access to, I might not be able to find the whole thing. You know, it says view on a journal site. Check if you have access. Oftentimes this is going to say, hey, you need to pay us $70 a year or something for access to this journal, which you guys should not do unless you are just so excited about reading whatever journal specialty it is for a whole year. There's a whole nother conversation we could have about that. So how could I find actually not just an abstract, because that's not going to help me, but how could I actually find something that's written by him? So I am going to go to Mitchell and pull up ProQuest and see if I can search his name. Alright, I'm gonna search for ProQuest Central, and I don't know if I'm gonna have to go straight to the library, probably. Well, you guys can take a super easy route and go into Moodle because I linked you straight there. So I'm gonna go to Resources, and then I'm gonna click into the P section, and I'm gonna go to ProQuest. Okay. So remember, his name is Scott P. Bartlett. I've got it up here if I need to. I am going to go into the advanced search section, because if I just searched his name, then that would be any article with anything, like even an article not written by him but referencing him. And if he is that much of an expert, that's always possible. So I want to type in his name, Scott P. Bartlett, and instead of just searching anywhere in the text, I'm specifically going to search for the author. I want the full text. I'm assuming that he's writing scholarship, so it's probably going to be peer-reviewed, and I'm going to search that, see what I find. All right. So it looks like there's 3 results where he is listed as an author, and I've walked through this process once before I make this video, so I'm going to click on the first link, because I think that sometimes it's like, all right, I found this link here, rate of body dysmorphic disorder among patients seeking facial plastic surgery. How could this possibly be helpful for me? I mean, my teacher, you know, is asking me to have an expert source, or a source by an expert, but this is a source by an expert. I don't see how it could relate. So I guess I'm just going to kind of talk about the logic of, if I were writing a paper, how I would use something like this. You know, if this was the most relevant source that I could find, or if I was doing this and I only had 10 minutes, you know, and to say, I guess I should also say, I did not spend more than the amount of time that you see in this video doing this Google search. Like I didn't spend an hour trying to find exactly the right things to replicate for you. What you see here is essentially what I did to find a source by an expert. So it can take as little as, what is this, 10 minutes. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is an article that's really specific to, you know, a research method and the results. And actually, this is relatively short for a lot of the scholarly articles, peer-reviewed articles that you're going to find. But what might be the most important section for me to read is this discussion, because that's the part of this very scientific article that's going to apply the numeric data to how we could even use this. I didn't read the discussion. I scrolled straight down to summary, and I read these couple of sentences here. Results suggest that 8% of patients who sought cosmetic medical treatments and 7% of those who sought non-cosmetic medical treatments met diagnostic criteria for BDD. Now, when I read this, I was like, what is BDD? So, of course, I had to go all the way back up to the top and read the title again and say, okay, it's body dysmorphic disorder. And then I read a little bit of just kind of like the introduction to understand for myself that body dysmorphic disorder, it seems to be like a mental disorder where you are not happy with your appearance. And I think even more so than just the general unhappiness of like, oh, I wish I could lose 10 pounds, but just like really every time you look at yourself, you think of yourself as not the way that you actually look or something like that. So if the results then say, coupled with the evidence that suggests that the vast majority of patients do not experience improvement in their BDD symptoms following cosmetic treatments, the results further illustrate the need for the assessment of BDD in medical settings that offer appearance-related treatments. So this seems to be, I guess, what I could take away from this article, because I'm not a scientist or a surgeon or plastic surgeon. How would I apply this? If I'm saying, okay, I'm going to use this article in my annotated bib, but my teacher also wants me to have an evaluation section, how can I apply this to that paper, or if I'm going to analyze Grey's Anatomy? Well, I would look at Jackson's character in Grey's Anatomy, because he does go into plastic surgery, and I would try to think to myself, are there any scenes where, and a couple of things are happening, so where he would be encouraging a patient not to get a surgery that's not medically necessary, so not to, he might say, I'm not really comfortable performing this plastic surgery because it's not medically necessary. It is only something you want for your own image perception. If my results in this article are telling me that patients don't experience improvement in how they view themselves after getting cosmetic surgery, if it's BDD related, then I might ask the question of myself, well, would a surgeon like Jackson encourage his patients not to take elective plastic surgery treatments because of results like this, because they may not feel better about themselves? That's kind of how I would incorporate maybe an article that is so science heavy into more of an MLA analysis of an essay. And that's what I would put in my annotated bibliography, is essentially a breakdown similar to what I just talked about here. How can this help you? By no means do you need to incorporate these little numerical details here. If you come across an essay or a scholarly article that is really heavy in terms of its scientific or numerical content, you can mine it for the overview information beyond just the abstract, because the abstract isn't always going to tell you the specifics of the results or whatever. But if there's number heavy stuff that you don't understand, look in the beginning, look in the end, and see how you could apply it to your writing. This is a scholarly article that makes zero mention of movies or television shows or Grey's Anatomy or anything like that, but I could certainly use this article in an academic paper where I was analyzing the things that I'm asking you to do. So I hope that this rundown of how I'm kind of using Google and ProQuest at the same time, looking at a short scholarly article and applying it to our assignment, I hope that it can help you. If you're having any trouble finding sources and you haven't tried this pathway, check it out, see if it can help. Otherwise, of course, send me an email if you have any questions.